The distress beacon pulsed through the void. 37 seconds of static-laced screaming. Then silence. Commander Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she replayed the transmission for the third time. The final words sent ice through her veins. "They're not what we thought. The scales... God! The scales are opening." Every instinct screamed at her to turn the Endeavour around, to flee back to Earth. But 12,000 colonists on Kepler 442b were counting on her. And whatever had just slaughtered the orbital defense station was between her and them. The Endeavour dropped out of quantum space 2 million kilometers from Kepler 442b. Sarah stood on the bridge, her reflection ghosting across the viewscreen. Dark eyes, military-cut black hair, a scar on her left temple from the Mars Rebellion. 20 years of service had taught her to trust her gut. Right now, her gut wanted to vomit. Debris field detected, Lieutenant Marcus Webb announced from Tactical. His voice carried the practiced calm of a veteran, but his knuckles were white on the console. Reading scattered hull fragments, escape pods, Christ, Commander. There's nothing left of Defense Station Arcturus. Sarah moved to his station, studying the holographic display. Twisted metal glittered like deadly confetti against the planet's azure backdrop. 3,000 souls had crewed Arcturus. The debris pattern suggested an attack, not a malfunction. "Any sign of hostiles?" she asked. "Negative. Whatever did this is, wait." Webb's fingers danced across his console. "Contact. Bearing 270, range 800,000 clicks. Moving fast. Really fast." The view screen adjusted, magnifying the contact. Sarah's breath caught. The vessel was like nothing in human databases. Sleek, organic, its hull covered in overlapping metallic plates that shifted like living scales. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its length, hypnotic and alien. The ship was massive, easily twice the Endeavour's displacement. "Battle stations," Sarah ordered. "Send standard first contact protocols. All languages, all frequencies." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. Crew members rushed to their posts. Sarah felt the deck vibrate as the Endeavour's fusion drives powered up. The ship's AI, Iris, spoke in her characteristic measured tone. "First contact package transmitting. Broadcasting peace protocols." No response detected. The alien vessel banked with impossible grace, arrowing toward them. Sarah's tactical training kicked in, analyzing angles of approach, weapons range, escape vectors. "They're accelerating," Webb reported, reading massive energy buildup in their forward sections. "Evasive maneuvers. All hands brace for." The universe turned white. The Endeavour shuddered as alien fire raked across her dorsal hull. Alerts screamed. The lights flickered. Sarah grabbed her command chair as artificial gravity wavered. "Return fire," she shouted. "Iris, emergency quantum jump. Any vector away from..." "Quantum drive offline," Iris interrupted. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Casualties reported. The weapon appears to be a directed plasma beam using principles beyond our physics models. The alien ship dove beneath them, impossibly agile for its mass." Sarah caught a glimpse of its underbelly. Those scales were opening, revealing dozens of weapon ports. Each one glowed with gathering energy. All weapons, concentrated fire on their power signature. "Engineering, I need that quantum drive." The Endeavour's railguns thundered, sending depleted uranium slugs downrange at relativistic speeds. Most impacted the alien hull and did nothing. The scales absorbed the kinetic energy, rippling with rainbow iridescence. Then the scales opened wider. What emerged made Sarah's blood run cold. They weren't just weapon ports. They were launch bays. Dozens of smaller craft swarmed out. Sleek serpentine fighters that twisted through space with nightmare fluidity. "Fighter screen deployment," Webb ordered. "All pilots to their craft." But it was already too late. The alien fighters struck with surgical precision, targeting the Endeavour's point defense turrets. Explosions blossomed along the ship's hull. Sarah watched, helpless, as one fighter performed a maneuver that should have torn it apart. 90-degree turn at full combat speed. "Commander," I'm reading atmosphere venting from multiple sections. We can't take much more of this. Sarah made the hardest decision of her career. All stop. Cut main power. Broadcast surrender on all channels. The bridge fell silent except for damage alarms. Webb stared at her, disbelief written on his face. Ma'am, we can't. That's an order, Lieutenant. We surrender or we die. And if we die, those colonists have no warning. The Endeavor went dark, drifting in the void. The alien fighters circled like predators around wounded prey. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Sarah counted each heartbeat. Then a new voice filled the bridge, sibilant, layered with harmonics that hurt to hear. The translator struggled, rendering the words in broken English. Humans pray. You will be consumed. Resistance futile. Comply, survive, serve. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She'd spent her life preparing for first contact. She'd imagined peaceful meetings, tense negotiations, even hostile encounters. But this was worse than any scenario. This was hunger. They came aboard through forced docking clamps, burning through the Endeavor's hull with cutting beams. Sarah ordered her crew to stand down, to cooperate. Some obeyed, others didn't. She heard gunfire echoing through the corridors, brief and futile. The first Draconis warrior that stepped onto her bridge redefined Sarah's understanding of terror. It stood 3 meters tall, digitigrade legs ending in razor talons. Scales covered every centimeter, metallic green that shifted to bronze in the light. But it was the head that transfixed her. Elongated snout filled with crystalline teeth, eyes that glowed amber with disturbing intelligence, a crest of spike-like sensory organs. The creature wore minimal armor. It didn't need much when its own hide could apparently stop bullets. I am Scarish, it hissed, the translator rendering its speech more clearly now. Warcast Commander. You Arch and Sarah? Sarah forced herself to stand straight, meeting those alien eyes. Commander Sarah Chun, United Earth Defense Force. Under the Galactic Contact Protocols, I demand. Scarish moved faster than thought, covering 5 meters in a heartbeat. One clawed hand closed around Sarah's throat, lifting her off the deck. The talons pricked her skin. She felt hot blood trickle down her neck. You demand nothing. Each word dripped contempt. You are prey species. Soft mammals, weak, pathetic. The Imperium will feast on your worlds. Scarish dropped her. Sarah crumpled, gasping. Webb moved to help her, but a Draconis warrior blocked his path, weapon raised, some kind of energy lance that crackled with lethal power. Why? Sarah croaked. Why attack us? We never. Because we hunger, Scarish said simply. Because you exist in our expansion vector. Because we are Draconis, apex predators of the galaxy. Your worlds will feed our hatcheries. Your metals fuel our fleets. Your genetics enrich our breeding pools. Sarah's mind reeled. This wasn't war. This was extermination. Farming. Take this prey to the Grand Matriarch, Scarish ordered. She will examine the human species, determine optimal harvest methods. They dragged Sarah through her own ship, past crew members forced to their knees, past bodies of those who'd resisted. The Draconis had taken the Endeavor in less than 10 minutes. A ship that represented humanity's finest achievement, conquered like a wooden sailing vessel facing a modern warship. The alien mothership's interior was a disturbing blend of organic and technological. Walls pulsed with bioluminescence. The corridors were humid, hot, designed for reptilian comfort. Everywhere Sarah looked, she saw Draconis. Warriors like Scarish, smaller technician caste with more refined features, and hulking labor caste that stood 4 meters tall, all muscle and scales. They brought her to a massive chamber that could only be a throne room. And there, coiled on a platform of precious metals, was the Grand Matriarch. She was enormous, 5 meters of serpentine muscle and armored scales. Her coloring was different, too. Deep purple shot through with veins of gold. A crown of sensory organs framed her head, each one twitching independently. Her eyes, Sarah counted 6 of them, regarded the human with cold curiosity. So small, the matriarch mused. Her voice was deeper, more refined than Scarishes. So fragile. Yet you crossed the void, established colonies, created weapons. Interesting. She uncoiled, flowing across the platform with hypnotic grace. One massive claw extended, tilting Sarah's chin up. You fear me. Good. Fear is wisdom, but I sense something else. Defiance? Calculation? Tell me, human, why should the Imperium not harvest your species? Sarah's mouth was dry. Every instinct screamed at her to submit, to beg. But she'd commanded ships in the Mars Rebellion. She'd stared down mutineers and pirates. She wouldn't break here. Because we'll fight, she said quietly. Every world, every station, every ship. You'll take casualties. Maybe more than you think. The matriarch's laugh was a sound like grinding rocks. We have conquered 17 species. Some resisted. All fell. Your weapons are primitive. Your ship slow. Your coordination lacking. Then why talk to me? Why not just attack Earth? The question hung in the air. For a moment, something like respect flickered in those alien eyes. Because I am curious, the matriarch admitted. The Imperium has encountered only 3 species that achieved faster than light travel independently. Most inherit technology from precursors. But you humans built quantum drives from first principles. Impressive for prey. She turned away, her massive tail sweeping past Sarah. I offer choice. Rare gesture. Submit to the Imperium. Provide colony locations, defense codes, population centers. In exchange, swift harvest. Minimal suffering. Your species preserved in breeding programs. And if I refuse, we extract information through neural flaying. Painful process. Then we hunt your worlds one by one. Maximum suffering. Your choice, human. Sarah's mind raced. She needed time. Needed to understand these creatures, their technology, their weaknesses. Needed to survive long enough to warn Earth. I'll need to think about it, she said. The matriarch's sensory crown flared. Annoyance? Amusement? You have 1 solar cycle. Then we begin harvest of Kepler colony. You will watch from orbit. See the fate of resistance. Then you decide. They threw Sarah in a cell. A small chamber with walls that pulsed like living tissue. The air was too hot, too humid. She collapsed against a wall, finally allowing herself to shake. 12,000 colonists. Men, women, children. Teachers, engineers, farmers trying to build a new world. And tomorrow, the Draconis would slaughter them all. Unless she found a way to stop it. The cell door irised opened 6 hours later. Sarah tensed, expecting guards. Instead, a single Draconis entered. Smaller than the warriors, scales a lighter shade of green. The translator collar around its neck marked it as a technician caste. Do not fear, it said quickly. I am Thesic. I come in secret. Sarah stood slowly, every muscle tense. Why? Thesic glanced nervously at the doorway. Because the matriarch is wrong. The Imperium is wrong. The harvest must end. Sarah's pulse quickened. A dissident? An ally? I'm listening. Thesic moved closer, voice dropping to a hiss. The Draconis Imperium has existed for 6,000 cycles. We conquered 17 species. Each time, harvest feast expand. But something changes. The matriarchs grow more aggressive, more hungry, more irrational. Why? What's happening? The scales, Thesic said urgently. They are not natural. Not original Draconis biology. They were grafted, enhanced, made into living weapons, living armor. But the technology alters brain chemistry, increases aggression, decreases empathy. Each generation becomes more monstrous. Sarah's scientific training kicked in. Genetic drift? Unintended consequences of enhancement. Yes, the science caste knows. We study. We understand. But the warrior caste and matriarchs, they are too changed. They cannot see truth. The Imperium devours because the scales demand it. This was huge. A psychological vulnerability, maybe even a biological one. Can the effects be reversed? Thesic's sensory organs drooped. Unknown, perhaps. But first, must survive. Must escape. I can help you reach your ship. Send warning to Earth. But you must promise, help my people. Help us break the scales hold. Sarah met the alien's eyes. She saw desperation there and hope and truth. I promise. Get me off this ship, and I'll do everything I can. Thesic produced a small device, some kind of biological scrambler. This will mask your life signs. Follow me. Stay quiet. If we encounter warrior caste, run. They moved through the mothership's corridors like ghosts. Thesic knew every back passage, every maintenance conduit. The technician explained in whispers. The warrior caste relied on thermal sensing, aggressive pheromones, sound. The scrambler fooled all three. They passed through a chamber that made Sarah's stomach turn. Breeding pools, dozens of them, filled with viscous fluid. In each pool, eggs the size of basketballs pulsed with internal light. But worse were the Fujin tanks, filled with genetic material from dozens of species. The Draconis weren't just conquering. They were assimilating. How many species are in there? Sarah whispered. 43. Not all were harvested. Some were extinct when we found them. The Imperium preserves genetic diversity, uses it to enhance our own genome. That's actually not evil? The Imperium is complex. Not all bad, not all good. Like your humans. They reached a docking bay where the Endeavor was clamped. Draconi's engineers swarmed over her hull, analyzing, dissecting. Sarah's heart sank, but Thesic led her to an auxiliary hatch, one the engineers hadn't reached yet. I uploaded override codes, Thesic said. You have 20 minutes before alarms trigger. Use them wisely, and remember your promise, human. Sarah grabbed the alien's clawed hand. Thank you. I won't forget. She slipped through the hatch into familiar corridors. The ship was a wreck, burn marks, blood, bodies. Sarah forced herself not to look, focusing on reaching the bridge. She found Webb there, locked in the brig behind a force field, along with 30 other survivors. Commander! Webb's face lit up. How did you? No time. Iris, respond. The AI's voice was weak, damaged. Commander Chen, primary systems compromised. Quantum drive at 15% function. Weapons offline. Life support marginal. Can we make a jump? Probability of successful quantum transition, 32%. Probability of catastrophic drive failure, 68%. Sarah released the prisoners, fingers flying over consoles. Better odds than staying. Everyone to survival pods now. Webb, you're with me. We're getting out of here and warning Earth. Alarms shrieked. The Draconis had discovered her escape. Iris, plot emergency jump. Maximum distance. Execute on my mark. The Endeavor shuddered as her clamps disengaged. Through the view screen, Sarah saw Draconis warriors pouring into the bay, weapons raised. Energy bolts hammered the shields. Mark! Reality twisted. The universe folded inside out. Sarah felt every atom of her body scream as the damaged quantum drive tore open a hole in spacetime. The Endeavor fell through, tumbling into the space between spaces. They emerged somewhere else. Somewhere wrong. The view screen showed impossible things. Stars that spiraled in non-Euclidean patterns, nebulae that existed in more than 3 dimensions, colors that had no names. The quantum drive had torn too deep, punched through into a layer of reality humans had only theorized about. Where are we? Webb breathed. Iris. Sarah's hands trembled on her console. Location unknown. Star patterns do not match any database. Quantum signature suggests we have entered a region of space with altered physical constants. Fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. The ship drifted, systems failing. Sarah watched their air supply tick down. They had maybe 6 hours before life support gave out completely. No way to jump again, the drive was slag. No way to send a message, they were too far from any relay. They'd escaped the Draconis, only to die in the void. Then Webb shouted, Contact! Something's approaching. The vessel that emerged from behind a prismatic nebula defied description. It was massive, crystalline, its structure both organic and geometric. Light flowed through it like thought, and it was old. Sarah could feel that age radiating from it like heat from a star. A voice filled the bridge, not through speakers, but directly in their minds. It spoke perfect English, but with an accent that suggested it had learned the language by reading Sarah's thoughts. Humans. Interesting. You have fled the Draconis Imperium. You have been helped by a dissenter. You have seen the breeding pools. You begin to understand. Who are you? Sarah asked the void. We are the architects. We seeded this galaxy with life. We uplifted species. We watched, and we made mistakes. The crystalline ship moved closer. Sarah saw movement within it, vast intelligences, consciousness beyond human comprehension. The Draconis were one of our experiments. We found a primitive reptilian species and enhanced them, gave them intelligence, technology, the ability to traverse stars. We thought we were creating allies. Instead, we created predators. The scales, Sarah whispered. The enhancements. That was you. Yes, we sought to make them resilient, adaptive. We succeeded too well. The enhancements rewrote their psychology. We tried to correct our error, but the Draconis rejected our help, drove us from their worlds. Now they spread like a plague, consuming everything in their path. The architect's presence pressed against Sarah's mind, showing her visions. The Draconis in their primitive state, gentle herbivores living in harmony with their world. Then the architect's arrival, the transformation, the first hunts, the spiral into predation and conquest. We cannot stop them, the architect continued. We are bound by ancient laws. We cannot destroy what we have created. But you can. You must. How? We barely survived one ship. The scales are their strength, but also their weakness. They are quantum-linked across the entire Imperium. Every Draconis connected through subspace resonance. Disrupt that link and you disrupt their coordination, their technology, their unity. The architect showed her more schematics, equations, a device that could generate the right frequency. It was complex, requiring materials that didn't exist in normal space. But here, in this realm between realities, those materials floated freely. You have 6 hours of life support, the architect said. We will give you the means to save your species, but you must act quickly. The Imperium fleet moves toward Earth even now. 27,000 ships. They will arrive in 43 standard days. Sarah's blood ran cold. That's not enough time to evacuate. Not enough time to build defenses. No, but enough time to build this device. Enough time to strike at the heart of the Imperium. Enough time for hope. The architect's ship enfolded the Endeavor in a field of energy. Sarah felt herself lifted, carried through impossible spaces. The crew worked in a trance, hands guided by ancient knowledge. They harvested materials from the quantum foam itself, exotic matter, negative energy, particles that existed only in probability clouds. And they built. The device took shape. A sphere of interwoven realities, pulsing with power that made Sarah's eyes water. The architects explained its function. It would emit a pulse that propagated through the Draconis quantum scale network. The pulse wouldn't kill them, wouldn't even hurt them, but it would sever their connection to the enhancements. Let them feel, think, choose freely for the first time in millennia. Will it work? Sarah asked. Probability uncertain. The Draconis may embrace their freedom, or they may choose to remain predators. Free will is unpredictable, but it is right. 6 hours became 7, then 8. The architects suspended time around the Endeavor, giving the crew precious extra moments. When they finished, the device sat in the cargo bay, humming with potential. We will return you to normal space, the architect said. You will emerge near Earth. You must deploy the device at the Imperium's forward base. Maximum effect requires proximity to a matriarch. That's a suicide mission. Yes, but necessary. And Commander Chun, the dissenter who helped you, Thesic, he will assist if you ask. Not all Draconis have lost themselves to the scales. Reality snapped back. The Endeavor tumbled into normal space, alarms screaming, systems failing. But they were home. Sarah recognized Sol, humanity's star, never more beautiful. And between them and Earth, a Draconis fleet was forming. Earth's defense fleet was a joke compared to the Draconi's armada. 43 human ships against 1,000 enemy vessels. Sarah watched the tactical display and felt despair settle in her bones. But she also felt something else. Determination. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies. I need to reach someone in the Draconi's fleet." "Commander, that's an order, Lieutenant." The channel opened. Sarah spoke directly, using the Draconi's language she'd learned. "Thesikov the Science Gast. This is Chinsera. I have kept my promise. I need your help one final time." Silence. Then, impossibly, a response. "I hear you, human. What do you require?" Sarah explained the device, the plan. She expected refusal, disbelief. Instead, Thesik's response was immediate. "I will help. The matriarchs must be freed, even if freedom destroys us." Transmitting coordinates of Grand Matriarch's flagship. "And Sarah, thank you for seeing us as more than monsters." The Endeavor limped toward the coordinates, dodging fire, bleeding atmosphere. Earth's fleet bought them time, sacrificing themselves in suicide runs that gave Sarah precious minutes. She watched ships die, the Valiant, the Prometheus, the Defiance, each one crewed by people who understood what was at stake. The Grand Matriarch's flagship loomed ahead, a nightmare of scaled metal and bioluminescent fury. It dwarfed every other ship, a mobile planet designed for conquest. "Webb, set the device to detonate on my mark." "Iris, calculate a ramming trajectory." "Commander, no." Webb grabbed her arm. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. But you don't have to stay. Get to the escape pods." "That's an order." Webb's jaw set. "With respect, ma'am, screw your orders. We started this together. We end it together." One by one, the surviving crew members appeared on the bridge. 20 souls, battered and bleeding, but unbroken. "All right," Sarah said softly. "Then let's show these lizards what humans are made of." "Iris, full burn. Aim for the flagship's power core." The Endeavor accelerated, her damaged engines screaming. Draconi's fighters swarmed them. Energy bolts tore through the hull. Deck plates buckled. The view screen cracked, but they kept going. The flagship grew until it filled their vision. Sarah saw Draconi's warriors scrambling, weapons ports opening. She thought of Earth, of the billions who would never know what happened here, of her promise to Thesik, of hope. "Detonate!" she screamed. The device activated. For one infinite moment, Sarah felt connected to every Draconis in the galaxy, felt the quantum scales that bound them, controlled them, drove them to hunt and feed and conquer. The scales that had turned herbivores into apex predators. And she felt them shatter. The pulse propagated faster than light, riding the quantum network through space and time. Every enhanced Draconis in the Imperium felt it simultaneously, a moment of perfect clarity. The scales went dark, dormant, inert. The Grand Matriarch screamed. On her flagship, in her throne room, she felt the weight of 6,000 years of bloodshed crash down. Felt memories of species destroyed, worlds harvested, children consumed. Felt the horror of what she'd become, and wept. Throughout the fleet, Draconi's warriors stopped fighting. Some collapsed. Others stared at their clawed hands as if seeing them for the first time. The ships held position, weapons powering down, while their crews processed the unprocessable. The Endeavor struck the flagship's hull. But instead of exploding, it was caught, enfolded by some kind of energy field. Sarah felt the ship decelerate, impossibly, gently. "All stop," a voice commanded. The Grand Matriarch's voice, but different, broken. "Cease all hostilities. The human commander lives. Bring her to me." Sarah walked through the flagship's corridors again, but everything had changed. Draconi's techs worked frantically. Others sat in shocked stillness. She saw a warrior caste holding its head, talons scraping scales as if trying to tear them off. The throne room was chaos. The Grand Matriarch had torn her own ceremonial armor away. Her scales were dim, lifeless metal. She looked at Sarah with 6 eyes that held only pain. "What have you done?" she whispered. "Freed you," Sarah said. All of you, the architect's enhancements, they're gone. You can choose now. Really choose. But the things we have done, the species destroyed, the horror, the matriarch's voice broke. How can we live with this knowledge? Sarah stepped closer, meeting those alien eyes. The same way humans do. You acknowledge what you did. You grieve. You change. And you do better. We are monsters. No. You were slaves to your biology. But not anymore. Now you have a chance to be something else. The matriarch was silent for a long time. Then, what would you have us do? Help us, Sarah said. You have technology, resources, knowledge. Help us repair the damage. Help the species you've conquered recover. And maybe someday we can be allies. Real allies. And if we refuse, Sarah smiled grimly, then we fight. And maybe we lose. But at least you'll have chosen. The Grand Matriarch rose, her massive form uncoiling. She approached Sarah until they stood face to face. Very well, human. The Imperium will help. We will rebuild what we destroyed, restore what we took, and perhaps learn to be more than predators. She extended one enormous claw. Sarah took it. Partners? The matriarch asked. Partners. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt defense station Arcturus. Below, Kepler 442b sparkled like a jewel. The colony had survived. More than survived, thrived. And they weren't alone. Draconi's ships orbited alongside human vessels. Former warriors worked construction. Their strength used to build instead of destroy. Science-cast techs shared technology. Even the Grand Matriarch had come, establishing an embassy on the planet's surface. The scales were gone, removed through careful surgery. The Draconis that remained were different creatures. Still strong, still intelligent, but no longer driven by artificial hunger. Some struggled with guilt. Others embraced change. All were learning. Thesic appeared beside Sarah, his scales now decorated with human-style tattoos, symbols of peace, of cooperation. Thank you, he said quietly, for keeping your promise, for seeing what we could become. Thank you, Sarah replied, for having the courage to ask for help, for believing change was possible. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching two species learn to coexist. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, conflicts, old hatreds surfacing. But they would face those challenges together. The architects had made a mistake uplifting the Draconis, but Sarah had helped correct it, not through violence or revenge, but through compassion and hope. The universe was vast and strange, full of wonders and terrors, but also full of possibilities. New scales had yet to be grown. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.